All right, here we go. So the first problems that are on the front ask you to actually evaluate these things. In other words, find the value of the sine of 3 pi over 2. Now, what happens sometimes is we see 3 pi over 2, and we immediately think, okay, pi is 180, divided by 2 is 90, times 3 is 270, and we think that's the answer. No. 3 pi over 2 is 270, but we're finding the sine of 270. So we're going to draw 270 degrees. Where is 270 degrees? Straight down, right? Isn't 270 down here like this? Remember, 0, 90, 180, 270? And when your angle is actually on one of the lines, we can't make a triangle. So what do we do when the angle is on the line? We make a circle. And the radius of the circle is 1, which means this point, which is straight down from the origin, is what? What are the coordinates of that point? Straight down from the origin.
0.
What's the x part? 0. And the y part is -1. So that point is 0, -1. So x is 0 and y is -1. Now, we wanted sine. Oh, who remembers what sine? Josh? What? Joshua? Y over r. Very good. So y over r would be -1 over 1, which we can just write as -1. Beautiful.
Could we also just plug that into our calculator?
No, these are no calculator problems. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, you can, but no, these are no calculator. All right, next, tangent -210. All right, so we got to remember it's negative. Negative means what? When the angle is negative, it means we go down and around. So this would be -90, -180, -270, if I'm going this way. So wouldn't -210 be up here like this? In between 180 and 270? When your angle is jutting out like this, then we go ahead and make a triangle, right? And how far is it? Keep in mind, look, my fingers are making that angle. This finger is 210, this finger is 180. What is the angle in between? 30. And again, this is your memorization coming into play. This is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. Across from the 30 is 1. The hypotenuse is 2. This is √3. And then the tricky part, something must be negative. I'm in quadrant 2. Something has to be negative. What's negative? The 1, the 2, or the √3? The √3 is negative because you're left. There's your origin. If you're on the left side of the origin, you're negative. The 2 will never be negative. Hypotenuse is positive all the time. Okay, we want tangent. What's the definition of tangent? Opposite over adjacent. So opposite is 1, adjacent is -√3. So our answer is -√3 over 3. Scout, this is called the exact answer. If you type that in on your calculator, it's going to give you some decimal. So we want the exact answer. That means we do it by hand. All right, how's that? Everybody okay with that one? Cosecant pi over 6. Now again, your job is to find the cosecant. I know that pi over 6 is 30. How do I know that? Because pi is 180, and 180 divided by 6 is 30. But that is not the answer. The answer is the fraction you're going to get. So we draw 30 degrees. There's 0, there's 90, here's 30. Right there. Drop that perpendicular down. Same triangle we had over here, except this time, is anything negative? Nope, because we're in quadrant 1, and in quadrant 1 everything is positive, right and up. All right, cosecant. What's cosecant? Very good, it's the reciprocal of the sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So this is going to be hypotenuse over opposite. The cosecant is 2. And then cosine 225. Oh my gosh, I don't know what is going on with this board. It's bad news. I tried a new eraser, I thought that might work, but it didn't work. I don't know what's going on here.
What'd you clean it with? You pour it.
All right, here we go, we'll do our best. All right, cosine 225. Okay. What does 225 look like? Can you draw 225? Can you draw 225? Yeah. Can you make a triangle or is it a circle problem? It's a triangle because we only use the circle when we are on an axis, right? And 225 is not an axis. So, oh, it's going to be a very long day. I have to do this all day. All right. Let's see if the difference might work better. Okay, so 225, where is it? 225. Here? All right, I need this angle right here. How big is that angle gonna be? 45 degrees. Very, very, very good. How do I know that's 45 degrees? Because this is 180 and this is 225. And there's 45 degrees between those. All right, what are the sides?
-1, -1, square root of 2.
Perfect. Now, why are those negatives? Does everybody understand why those are negative? Quadrant 3, left and down. There's the origin. We went left and down. Okay, now what do I want? Cosine. Cosine is, here's your angle.
Adjacent over.
So cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, or negative root 2 over 2 when I rationalize it. All right, that's the front side. The back side is what we just learned last week, and that is how to sketch. So, let's see what you remember from your sketching practice. Okay, y equals 2 sine 3x. Do you remember what a sine looks like?
It's the hill in the valley.
Yep. So it starts at the origin. There it is. There's a sine curve. Now, your job, once you get your picture in there, you have to label the top and the bottom, and you have to label all of these important points. So, the top of the hill is an important point, where it crosses, the bottom of the valley, and where it ends. So all those little hash marks I made have to be labeled. So let's look at our equation. What does that tell me, that 2 right there? It tells me the curve goes up 2 and down 2. In other words, its amplitude is 2. Now, I don't know what these labels are going to end up being, but I know they're supposed to be 90, 180, 270, and 360, just like when I draw my angles over here. But what's happened in this problem is we've stuck this number in. What does that number do?
Divide.
Divides. So all of these have been divided by 3. So the actual labels that go in the picture are 30, 60, 90, and 120. So the period of my function is 120 degrees. Period is start to finish. Easy enough. What about this one? Well, first of all, you need to pay attention that it's negative. What does negative mean? Or what impact does the negative have?
Turns it upside down.
Turns it upside down. So, instead, remember what a cosine normally does. A cosine normally starts up here. Does that? Well, this one's going to start at the bottom of the valley and end at the bottom of the valley. Cosines are tricky to graph because they look so weird. Just remember that wherever you start it is where you have to end it. So we have half a valley, a hill, and half a valley. What's my amplitude? A half. Remember, this number out in front multiplies the vertical. Amplitude's height, vertical. My period, or my labels, my horizontal labels, are supposed to be, same as before, 90, 180, 270, and 360. But what have I done this time? This time I've divided them by 2. So now my actual labels are 45, 90, 135, and 180. So my period is 180. And the last graph, tangent 1/2 x. Anybody remember what a tangent looks like? It's got the asymptote and the asymptote and the squiggly line through the origin, right? There's no vertical labels because tangents have no amplitude, no height. And the horizontal labels, these guys, are supposed to be negative 90 and 90. Right? Those are my labels are supposed to be. But what have I done? Divided by a half. And dividing by a half is the same as timesing by 2. So my actual labels are negative 180 and positive 180 because I divided by a half. Right? And then, what's my period? Period is beginning to end, so please don't say 180. Period's here to here, which would be 360. Okay? So, not tomorrow, the next day, be ready to answer some questions, like the front side, where we have circles and triangles, and the back side where we have some sketches. What? It's a quiz, yes. Is it an emergency? Please hurry. All right. Now, let's get on our notes. And we're going to pick up where we left off. We don't have a lot of time, so we need to get moving here. All right, so here we go. First problem, we're ready for 4.7, letter B, 1B. This literally says find the angle whose cosine is √3/2. So I want you to draw your triangle like you always do. The angle is right here. This is your angle. This is what you're looking for. Figure out how big that is. And you know the cosine is √3/2. So where are you going to put in this triangle the √3 and where are you going to put the 2?
The 2 on the
2 is the hypotenuse, absolutely, because cosine is something over hypotenuse. Where do you put the √3? Adjacent. And at this point, you're supposed to recognize the triangle. What kind of a triangle is this? 30, 60, 90. And since the √3 is here, this must be the 1. And what angle do I know is always across from the 1? 30 degrees. That's the answer to the question. The answer to the question is 30 degrees. Okay? Here we go. What does this one say? Find the angle whose tangent is √3. Now, if you want to make that a fraction, you can, because we know tangent is opposite over adjacent. So it's nice to have 2 numbers there. So here's my triangle. Here's your angle right here. That's the angle we're looking for. Somewhere you're gonna put a root 3 and somewhere you're gonna put a 1. Where do they go? Root 3 is, no, root 3 is not adjacent. Root 3 is opposite and adjacent is 1, because tangent is opposite over adjacent. And that makes the hypotenuse 2. Can you tell me how big that angle is right there? 60 degrees, perfect, and that's the answer to the question. The answer to the question is the angle. When you see this notation, that means find the angle. Now, if the number is positive, you are going to draw your triangle in quadrant 1 every time. If the number is negative, I will tell you where to draw it. There are rules for this. I don't want you to have to memorize something else, so I'm going to tell you where to draw it. So this is, you're going to draw this one in quadrant 4. Okay? So what that means is when I draw my triangle, I'm going to draw it in quadrant 4. My butterfly bow tie in quadrant 4. Now, the sign is opposite over hypotenuse, and that's negative because, well, it's negative in the problem, but it's negative in the quadrant there too. Now, what kind of an angle is that? 45. Isn't this a 1, 1, root 2 situation, guys? So that's a 45. When you write your answer, though, you can't say the answer is 45 degrees, because 45 degrees would be up here. What angle is this? Going down. That's a negative 45. Remember, when you go down, that's negative angles. Those are negative angles. So the answer is negative 45. All right, now we've got this one. And it's another negative, so the rules say this one's in quadrant 2. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, how do you know it's quadrant 2? I know the rules. You don't need to know the rules. You just need to trust me. This one's in quadrant 2. All right, so I'm going to draw my butterfly bow tie in quadrant 2. And I know that cosine is 1 over 2. These are the sides of a triangle. I'm looking for the angle. So where do I put the 1 and where do I put the 2? Cosine. Adjacent over hypotenuse. That makes this side root 3, which makes this angle how big? It's across from the root 3, so it is 60 degrees. Now again, be careful. Where, if you said the answer is 60 degrees, where is 60 degrees? Isn't 60 degrees over here? And that's not the angle I want. The angle I want is the one that gets me into quadrant 2. Anybody want to take a guess how big that is? How big is that red angle? This little blue guy here is 60. How big is that red one? Not 150. 120. Why is that angle? That's the answer to the question, by the way, 120 degrees. Why is that angle 120? Well, I know this is 180, don't I? And I want to know what this is right here. This is my question mark. But I know that from here to here is 60 more. So doesn't that have to be 120? And that's the answer. Now, 60 is this angle. So when you put a 60 there, you were absolutely right. But you understand why you can't say 60 is the answer? Okay, so 120 is that. All right. Perfect. Perfect, we'll have a small quiz next time. If you have